Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, hundreds run from the most serious fighting to break out in Tigray since 2022. Many heading to Sudan despite conflict there. Clashes between the Tigrayan TPLF fighters and Ethiopian federal forces see both accusing each other of deliberately trying to spark a fresh war. Also, Nigeria is still probing links that Mexican drug cartels may have deep in Africa's top economy. The investigation continues in the wake of a crackdown on a huge multi-million-dollar global meth operation which was dismantled in Nigeria earlier this year. And the World Cup heroics of Cape Verdean goalie Vozinha saw him become an online and on-pitch sensation. That did not go unnoticed, and he's signed a half-year contract with Chilean team Colo-Colo with debut kickoff set for August. We join him as he touches down in South America. But first, reports of a visible military build-up in the south of the Ethiopian region of Tigray, which has been on the brink of war with the federal government for months. Both the army and the Tigrayan TPLF are now blaming each other for the most serious escalation in conflict since the 2022 peace deal ended 2 years of civil war in which a conservatively estimated 600,000 people were killed. Several people died along the Sudan-Ethiopia border during clashes over the weekend that also sent projectiles into refugee camps nearby. Fighting has stopped since Saturday, but hundreds of people have been fleeing into Sudan, which itself is at war. Tom Kinetti breaks it all down for us from Addis Ababa.
The TPLF has released a statement accusing Ethiopian government forces of starting these clashes on Saturday, that mass casualties have occurred and that hospitals in Gondar and Western Tigray have been overwhelmed. France 24 cannot independently verify those claims nor any casualty numbers. But on the Ethiopian government side, certain members, such as Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's advisor Getachew Reda, have condemned and blamed the TPLF and called on them to rethink their actions for the future of Tigray. Since these clashes, we've seen reports of hundreds fleeing across the border into Sudan to shelter from any further escalation of conflict. It comes after a week-long mass media campaign by the state-run Ethiopian media condemning the TPLF and inflammatory comments from the TPLF in the same week against Addis Ababa, which caused concern that such an outbreak could take place. These tensions have been brewing for months between these two parties, particularly after the TPLF forcibly removed the interim president of the region, who was appointed by Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, and replaced him with a more hardliner leader as well, when the entire region was excluded from the general elections. And subsequently, I spoke to eyewitnesses there who witnessed forced recruitment and forced conscription by the TPLF among young Tigrayan men, causing a mass exodus of the region. The Ethiopian government accuses the TPLF of creating an anti-Ethiopia alliance named SIMDO, which is a Tigrinya word for alliance or engagement.
Tom Kinetti there in the Ethiopian capital for us. Meanwhile, in Sudan, its own brutal power struggle between the army and the RSF paramilitary continues to drag on. At least 35 people were killed when army drones struck a traditional court in western Darfur on Sunday. Rights groups say that victims were from the village of Gara al-Zawaya, which is controlled by the RSF, which has been fighting the army since 2023. Now, over the course of the war, both sides have been accused of systemic war crimes. A High Court judge abducted in northwest Nigeria has been freed a week after he'd been taken from his home by gunmen. Now, they still haven't been caught, and the circumstances of Judge Faruqi Hassan Binza's release still aren't clear. But despite his happy ending, security forces more generally are struggling to rein in a rash of kidnappings for ransom across Nigeria. This amidst a wider landscape of even more complex security challenges. Samuel Okoye breaks it down for us.
Farouk Bunza, a High Court judge in the northwestern state of Kebbi, was abducted from his residence a week ago. The circumstances under which he regained his freedom are unclear, but the police said no ransom was paid and investigation is on to apprehend the gunmen who abducted him. Northwest Nigeria, where the incident took place, has seen several incidents of abductions in recent days. Over the weekend, gunmen kidnapped dozens of people from the Kaswandaji village in neighboring Zamfara state. Eyewitnesses put the number of those abducted at between 50 and 70. The gunmen were said to have overrun a military outpost, killing some security personnel and wounding 2 others. The gunmen were also said to have burnt the soldiers' accommodation and a military vehicle. In another violent incident recorded over the weekend in northwest Nigeria, armed men attacked Lajinga village in Sokoto state, killing at least 12 people and abducting an unspecified number of women and children. Northwest Nigeria is facing major security challenges with several armed groups operating in the area. Last Christmas, the United States military conducted a series of missile strikes targeting Islamic State-linked militants in the region. Insecurity in the region has worsened after the U.S. airstrikes, raising questions about their effectiveness.
That talked through by our Sam Olokoya. Now, how deep do Mexican drug cartels' influence run in Nigeria? Investigations continue in the wake of a crackdown on a huge multi-million-dollar global meth operation, which was dismantled earlier this year. Laurent Berstecker tells us more.
Equipped with gas masks and hazmat suits, officers from the National Drug Enforcement Agency take inventory of dozens of jerry cans and vats of chemicals before meticulously destroying them. Hidden in the depths of the Nigerian forests, this makeshift lab was used by criminals as a base of operations to manufacture a dangerous drug, methamphetamine, also known as meth.
Meth is a very strong stimulant, very addictive. And so it's, of course, when you take it, it destroys your organs, your heart, your lungs, and general body system.
In May, Nigerian police conducted a raid on the premises, arresting 10 people, including 3 Mexican nationals. It also seized some $360 million worth of meth from the illegal lab, the largest ever discovered in the country. With legal proceedings still underway in Lagos, a judge recently ordered the destruction of the lab and of its contents, which had been kept as evidence, citing environmental reasons.
The waterbed is being destroyed. Of course, it's been contaminated with serious toxic chemicals, waste from the lab. Also, the pollution in the air, both for life, for plants, for animals, for human safety and public health is very, very, destructive.
West African ports have in the past few years become a major destination for drugs transiting between South America and Europe. But Nigerian authorities say they've recently observed a shift as transnational drug cartels increasingly set up production bases inside the country.
Well, finally, Cape Verde's veteran goalkeeper Vozinha arrived in Chile to join First Division club there, Colo-Colo. Goalkeeper acquired a cult following during the World Cup in North America, where his heroics helped Cape Verde reach the round of 32. Laurent Berstecker is back telling us more.
Legions of fans packed the hallway of Santiago Airport to welcome their club's new superstar, Cape Verde goalkeeper and World Cup sensation Vozinha. The 40-year-old on Monday officially signed for Chilean First Division side Colo-Colo, much to the delight of supporters who couldn't wait to see their new number 1 in action.
I hope he can contribute, as his experience at the World Cup proved. In this case, let's hope he can contribute by sharing his experience with the younger players.
Vozinha, of his real name Josimar Jose Evora Diaz, was unknown to the global public before the last World Cup. There he helped Cape Verde, which were playing in the competition for the first time, reach the round of 32, where they narrowly lost to eventual finalists Argentina. An incredible run that owed much to Vozinha's sensational performances and that saw the goalkeeper's Instagram explode from just 50,000 followers to nearly 30 million today. Yet despite his newfound fame, the Cape Verde hero is keeping his feet firmly on the ground.
I'm really happy to be here. It's a great honour to represent Colo-Colo, and I'd like to thank the fans for their support and for their patience.
The signing is likely to bring in fresh attention and financial opportunities for Colo-Colo and Chilean football as a whole. Since announcing Vozinha's capture, the club already saw its social media followers jump by over 70,000.
Good going, Vozinha. Well, that is, though, all we have time for Eye on Africa. Thanks very much for joining us, though, and do so again if you can. Till then, take care.
In Spain, the regularization of 500,000 migrants announced by Pedro Sanchez's socialist government has begun. Unlike its European neighbours, Spain is counting on immigration as an indispensable part of its economic growth. What will this historic measure mean for hundreds of thousands of people? The plan does not please everyone. Could it play in the hands of the far right? Watch Reporters, Immigration, Spain Against the Tide on France 24.